So next up is actually another part of what the Operators Committee does, and that's the Operator Exchange, which we have done 2 since the pandemic. And up next is Graydon Stewart, who is from Farmington Wastewater Treatment Plant, and he will do a quick presentation on his experience. He went to Rhode Island earlier this year.
Cool. Well, pleasure to meet you guys. I'm Graydon Stewart. I'm an operator, obviously, from Farmington, Connecticut, representing CT. I'm an OIT3 working over in Farmington, and for this year's Operator Exchange, I was lucky enough through CT WIA to go work with RCWA over in Rhode Island. So this is a small presentation and speech about my experience, what I learned, and what I got to do. So, a little background, I've been an operator since 2020. I've worked at 2 facilities. Most I've worked with a modified Bardenfo process and usually use UV for disinfection. So that's my experience on this whole thing. So definitely going over to Rhode Island, I got to learn a lot. So our first stop of the trip was Quonset WPCF, which is a design flow of 1.8 million gallons a day, and it's fed by 28 miles of collection systems, which are fed a lot by industrial users along their coast there. The majority of their flow, they treat with their RBCs, their rotating biological contractors. And this is a process I had never seen before in person. You know, it's something I'd read about in books, but never kind of visualized and got to see what it's like. So I soon learned that they use a circular rotating media to promote biological growth. And usually with a gray color, it's like, healthy, while white and brown and other colors can mean that you have issues with either industrial discharge not being treated properly or your media is dying. And these usually, at this plant here, it was in a 5-stage series setup, so it takes a nice long time. It's a very resilient stage process, so nothing gets killed, and then you can always regrow your growth. And then next, we got to go visit the Narragansett WPCF. They're designed to take a flow of 1.4 million gallons a day, and they share 80 miles of collection system with the South Kingston Regional Treatment Plant. They're located right at the end of a public beach, so they have a beautiful view on the coast. And depending on the time of year, they have trouble keeping up with their BOD and flows because being close to the University of Rhode Island and being a huge tourist destination, flows go up and down throughout the year. So, which was pretty interesting, and they've got to play around that. Cool thing was I'd never seen before was their oxidation ditch, which was a 4-racetrack setup, and they used mechanical aerators to keep things aerated, and they used recirculation to keep everything flowing. And once again, the beautiful view over at Narragansett was something to die for. It was a great start to the trip. I really appreciate it because it was like, Rhode Island's pretty nice, compared to Connecticut. I'm from the Central Valley, so it's like we just got the Connecticut River for water, so. And this is where I got to meet Scott. Next, we went to the South Kingston Regional Treatment Facility, which is designed for a flow of 2.5 million gallons a day. They have 54 miles of their own collection system, as well as what they share with the Narragansett system. And they run an activated sludge system using an aeration racetrack. The cool thing about their facility was I learned that they had circular secondary clarifiers, but they used a trough in the center to collect their effluent compared to usually going over the weirs on the outer ring. So what ends up happening is they introduce the flow from the outside on the ring with a baffle to catch all the scum, and then it all flows to the center into a trough and then leaves the clarifier, which was a very interesting setup. Kind of confused me, never seen before, but there's multiple ways to accomplish certain goals and really big eye-opening experience for me while doing the exchange. And this is one of the operators I got to work, who gave the tour for me. After that, we got to visit the Jamestown sewer system. A smaller facility, they usually take in about 4,000 gallons a day. They have 33 miles of collection system that feed their aeration process, which uses extended aeration, And they used large surface aerators to accomplish this, which was interesting because I'd never seen a mechanical aerator of this size. And this is one of the empty tanks right here. So that just spins in rotation to cause air to come down in a suction motion. And that was the aeration basin at work, which was, pretty cool. It's a water park, so you have fun at it. And I was lucky enough to go through the tour with these two gentlemen right here who really helped me out and gave me a good idea of the process. A cool fun fact was that they moved some of their effluent to one of the local golf courses in the area. So they're able to reuse their effluent to kind of help the community rather than using potable water, which I found interesting because we like to protect the environment, being wastewater professionals. After that, we got to go visit the Smithfield wastewater treatment facility, which is run by Veolia Contract Ops. It was an older facility designed for 5 million gallons a day. It used a modified Ludzak-Ettinger process to accomplish their aeration and denitrification. And one of the cool original upgrades they had to their system was their Actiflow building, which they used to remove phosphorus and zinc from their wastewater. And the Actiflow building is right on the right there. So it's like they use lamellas, introduce of chemicals just to help things settle out as a tertiary treatment. And a lot of the steps on this trip, I learned that Rhode Island, compared to Connecticut, most plants I've been at use UV, while Rhode Island does a lot of chlorine disinfection, so they have a lot of, at the end of their plants, contact chambers to introduce chlorine and then let it sit, and they check their residuals before releasing it back into the environment. Good old Veolia. And then after that, I got to go visit the Cranston water control facility. This is one of the largest plants so far on the trip, and the coolest part was not only being a large plant at 15 million gallons a day, they had an incinerator, which, being in Connecticut, we usually ship our sludge out from the facilities I've been at, so I never got to witness an incineration process in action, as they take in about 60 tons of sludge a day to get incinerated. Very large clarifiers, which was a different scale size for me, coming from a plant that's usually 5 million gallons a day at most, so. And they used a normal Barden-Faux process with aeration to just accomplish what they needed for treatment before going to secondary. But this was the cool nuts and bolts. They had basically a 3-level incinerator that basically takes in dewatered sludge at around 26%, and then basically it goes through these 3 levels of incineration where it turns into a fine, cokey ash, and then they have to put it in a cooling tower for a long time before they ship it off to wherever they're going to put it in a landfill or see if they can use it for reuse. Another cool, interesting fact was under the facility, they had a mile of tunnel below the whole facility, so all the piping you could see, it was visible, so everything going from each clarifier to each basin you could see and access, so it's a good way to keep an eye out to see if stuff's going wrong compared to doing a call before you dig or digging everything up and worrying about what you could damage. After that, this wasn't originally on our schedule, but we had some extra time during the day. We got to visit the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Center. This was a cool location because this is a pre-treatment facility. It's located between Newport and Providence, and it's the largest landfill in Rhode Island. And what they do is they take the leachate and runoff that comes from the landfill, and they treat it before they send it into the local collection system to go to the municipal plant. They take about 230,000 gallons a day, and they use 2 sequence batch reactors to treat the influent that comes in. And one of the cool facts I learned is that they like to add methanol into their treatment process so they can try to denite and get rid of the ammonia before discharging to local collection system, because the ammonia could help ruin the concrete and hurt local collections. And then the last stop of the day, for the second day, was we went to the West Warwick wastewater treatment plant. Now, this was a pretty familiar process to me. At one of my previous employments, it was the same setup, a lot of the same pumps. And but the cool thing was, they had something completely different that I had never seen before, which was a biological aerated filter, or better known as a BAF system. This BAF, it used these giant tanks that rose out of the ground. So we were at level here. They rose probably like 40 feet in the air. And what they do is they use a media where they aerate and fill the tanks up, and they allow a biofilm to grow and catch the excess turbidity and take out other stuff in the water after your aeration process and secondary treatment. So it's another polishing building that makes the water look cleaner. And the water that was coming out looked a lot like potable, like drinking water, which was very interesting because, you know, we all look to keep our turbidity down, but this was crystal clear water. I was kind of tempted to take a sip. It was a very hot day. It was about 95 degrees out that day, so we were all like, do we want to jump in? Do we not? But, yeah. And then the cool thing was they also had an active flow building to remove nutrients and stuff, but it was the only plant I got to visit on the tour that actually used a UV system. The West Warwick facility is located, they discharge into a river, and they're also kind of located in a swamp, so they got to watch out with chlorine discharges into the local environment. And these were the two guys lucky enough to give me the tour at the end of that day. And then finally, for the last part of the trip, I got to visit the Narragansett Bay Commission's Fields Point facility. Right outside Providence there. So this is a huge facility with a large footprint. I always kept getting confused throughout the trip because we locally in Connecticut, we have, at least I grew up with, you know, MDC, and they kept saying NDC, NBC, and I'm like, is like broadcasting company, or are we talking about, you know, the Connecticut? Like, I didn't know they were that far, but Narragansett Bay Commission, it's been drilled into my head, I know it now. But this large facility had a huge footprint, you know, with 8 primary clarifiers and 9 secondary clarifiers. 4 of the primary clarifiers are used only for kind of storm action and treating because Providence has a combined water sewer system. So what ends up happening is when they have storm events happen, all the rainwater goes into the sewer plant, and they have to treat it too, which is, you know, could put a strain on what we've got. A plant that takes 65 million gallons a day, when a storm comes in, that could be a lot to take in. So NBC back in 2003 basically did a big dig, and they bored a tunnel that was a mile long under the city of Providence to hold 65 million gallons of extra water that they could fill up in case of these storm events. And after that, they're able to slowly release it and treat it, you know, in a manageable fashion, so they don't need to worry about, you know, messing up their current biological process. And then they also used an aeration process that used an integrated fixed film with their activated sludge. So this was interesting because they had these large tanks that were filled with small wagon wheel media that filled about 55% of their tanks. And what it did was it allowed a biofilm to grow on it, and then basically then they aerate, and that does all the treatment. So even though it's a large area, they have a large footprint for their facility, but this large area also can't really expand because it's in the city and also next to the coast in the Narragansett Bay. So this process here allows them to treat large loads on a very small scale level, which was pretty cool because I had never seen that before. And also around the plant, they had 3 giant windmills that they put in that use green energy to help power the plant and stuff. And then this picture was taken. This was Paul who gave my tour, and this was at the conference Rickroll was holding at the end of the Operators Exchange and stuff. Got to meet a bunch of vendors, meet more people, and a lot of other people from different plants. I want to thank Connecticut WIA and RCWA. You know, this experience during the Operators Exchange provided me with a lot of information, threw a lot at me. I didn't even know how to take it at the time, but, you know, I really appreciate what happened. This process enabled me and gave me the chance to witness different things that I'd never seen before and stuff I'd only ever read about in books. You know, as operators, we take a lot of certification exams and we have to study for a lot, but we don't actually get to see it in person, whether it's a lagoon, rotating batch reactor, sequence, you know, batch reactors. So it's one of those things where it's good to see it in person and kind of learn up front. And I'd like to thank my special person, Rob Butler, because I didn't know about any of this stuff until I went to a Poo and Brew, and then he got me involved in CTWIA and told me to check this out. So I'd like to thank Rob Butler for that. So thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice job, Graydon. So 2024 is a few weeks away, and we will send out email blasts looking for candidates for the next operator exchange. And we've been to Massachusetts and Rhode Island in the last few years, so it's going to be either Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine in 2024.